When I think about outer space epic ship-to-ship combat games, the first series that comes to my mind is Wing Commander. I played Wing Commander for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System and not its original PC version, so granted, the experience I had was far different from what PC players had. Nevertheless, it was epic, from the cinema scenes to the ship to ship battles to defending against capital ships or going on offensive run against enemy capital ships. The battle against the Kilrathi was one of my first major battles that wasn't a Star Wars game. It was really intense, again, even though I wasn't very good at it, and I really got into it, and I really wanted to get better, and admittedly, in order to find out what happened in the storyline, I would use cheats from time to time in order to find out how the story would end. I played Wing Commander, then Wing Commander The Secret Missions, before going on to play Wing Commander 3 on the PlayStation a few years later, and that really upped the ante with its full motion video sequences, well-known Hollywood cast including Mark Hamill, Tom Wilson, and Malcolm McDowell, also Ginger Lynn Allen for what it's worth. And that game started off the full motion video thing that we had going on with the PlayStation and really told the story unlike anything we had ever seen. Instead of these slightly animated cutscenes, these were fully animated, full video, well acted, well produced, feels like there was a budget kind of thing going on there. Unfortunately, the gameplay itself fell by the wayside a little bit. It felt kind of generic on the PlayStation. It really didn't translate all that well. Again, the PlayStation controller, while it did have more buttons, still had a difficult time adapting to the control scheme, so there were a lot of things that you had to learn. Nevertheless, it was really cool to play that game, and I got into that even more so than I did Wing Commander for the Super Nintendo. Then, of course, with Wing Commander 4 that came out a short time later, continuing the story, I was head over heels in that game. And it was also very tempting to not select the invulnerability option right away, so you can go ahead and just check out the full motion video sequences without having to worry about dying time and time again. In 1997, we got a series started called Colony Wars. Now, I've talked about 1997 being my favorite year in console video gaming, and Console Wars is one of those games that tends to fly under the radar a little bit. Nevertheless, back in 1997, it was a very big deal. It kind of took the mantle from Wing Commander, and while it didn't have the full motion video sequences that Wing Commander 3 and 4 had, it had much better visuals. It had an engaging story that was entirely original, almost like a Civil War kind of setup, and the game was just like Wing Commander before it, quite difficult to learn. You had to be able to pick up the play controls in order to do pretty well. It felt the same, but it was still different at the same time, and it was a game that made quite an impact and spawned two sequels, Colony Wars Vengeance, which was very, very difficult, and then Colony Wars Red Sun, which came after Psygnosis was kind of getting out of publishing, so Midway had taken over the publishing duties for that particular game. There was one other outer space ship-to-ship combat game called Blast Radius, which is more arcade in nature rather than serious, and that's one that's not very expensive to get, and if you like games like that, it's one that I do recommend. But after Colony Wars died off, the genre kind of seemed to stall, at least until Activision published this game in 2000 from a development team called Warthog. It used a well-known IP. No, it's not Star Wars, but nonetheless, it was one that captivated audiences, and while the game is also difficult, just like Colony Wars Vengeance is, it's still a game that's quite impressive to play even today. I am talking about Star Trek Invasion, this guy right here from Warthog, and published by Activision in 2000 for the PlayStation. This game looks great visually, has some notable voice talent, and while it is difficult, I think it is worth a play, and we're going to take a look at this together today here on episode 101 of Unsealed, and I'm glad that you took the time to join me this time around. So, this takes place on Stardate 54101.02. It's the 24th century. Borg vessels have rapidly approached near space. Romulans are suddenly attacking Federation vessels, and a respected Starfleet captain has turned renegade, taking his ship with him. As a hotshot pilot in the elite Red Squad Tactical Strike Force under the command of Lieutenant Commander Worf, doesn't make sense, but whatever, you must uncover the plot behind this deadly pattern of events and fight back to save the universe from a doomsday scenario. Flying a prototype single-seat combat fighter, codenamed Valkyrie, you and your squad members are in the fight of your lives. We have single-player with squad support or head-to-head against friends in hollow space arenas, so that's cool whether it's single-player or multiplayer. A huge selection of awesome weapons, that's what the game says. Come in handy as you pilot a Valkyrie fighter or man a turret to defend larger ships. Fight intense battles in deep outer space or near planet orbit. Again, this is a look at the back of the case. Let's go ahead and open this up so we can take a look at the manual on the inside. Now, I have played this, and just like the Wing Commander games, I am not very good at it. But nonetheless, because of the voice talent that's here and because of the Star Trek references, it's something that I'm definitely curious about and do want to revisit. There is the Star Trek seal, by the way, right up there. And I think the disc is loose, so I got to be careful when I open this up. There we go. And when I open this up... Oh, no, it's not loose. Okay. I'm just going to turn this around so you can see it face up. There is the Star Trek Invasion disc and the instruction manual. We're going to take a look at the instruction manual as we always do. The back of the manual advertises a strategy guide for the game. Fight back to save the universe. Oh, Brady Games and strategy guides. GameStop, by the way, officially stopping selling the strategy guides. That's the end of an era, but that's a subject for a different video. This manual is in black and white, unfortunately. It is 22 pages in length. And I want to talk real quick about the voice cast before we talk about the gameplay. Patrick Stewart and Michael Dorn are both here, reprising their roles of Jean-Luc Picard and Worf, respectively. Let's see if there's anyone else here that stands out. Not really. So it's just those two. But nonetheless, being able to get Patrick Stewart and Michael Dorn in the game is pretty cool. So the general gist here is that it's very much like Colony Wars, which makes sense because I believe that some of the Warthog team came from Psygnosis. So it's very much like Colony Wars in that you have to take on capital ships, you have to take on other smaller scale battles ship to ship, but it takes place in the Star Trek universe rather than somewhere all new or all original, and that's something that I like about this quite a bit. Now, when we talk about play controls here, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, there are some easier play controls here, but there's also this Valkyrie flight model, and as you can see here, it's 2 pages worth, so it's something that you definitely have to play a little bit in order to get used to. I want to see if there's anything about energy management. It doesn't look like there is, which is good, because energy management is one of those things in Wing Commander that was kind of a pain in the rear end. But there are things like strafing and increasing speed, rolling, evasive maneuvers, warp speed, weapon changes, requesting reinforcements, and changing views. So it's all standard fare, but it is not easy. Again, this game will test your mettle, and you will have to play certain missions a few times in order to be able to get yourself a chance. Unless, of course, you have a memory card save that advances you further in the game, or you're using cheats that you might find on the internet. Nevertheless, it was neat to have a Star Trek game that was all original like this, and we really didn't see that many of those, and we would see more for the PlayStation 2 and then the Xbox 360 with, I believe, I think there were 2 of them that came out that also used original Next Generation talent as well as original series talent. I believe that William Shatner did the voiceovers for one of them as well. So this game right here, I got this for $10 actually. I paid a little bit for shipping as well. I won it in bid. It is going to be nice to revisit this when I get a little bit of extra time and see if I can get a little bit further now that I'm a little bit older. Maybe my patience will be a little bit better. So if you've played this game, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what you think, or whether you've played any other Star Trek games. If you have a favorite, I'd like to hear that. My own, that would be Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator from Sega, but I don't have that to show you, unfortunately. So as always, thanks very much for watching this episode of Unsealed number 101. And until the next time, my friends, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you next time.